But we met up at the Starbucks, and she was waiting on the second floor. We went up, and she immediately sees me and goes, "Oh, he's not that tall." And then my dad just goes like, "Oh yeah, it's because he got fat, so he looks shorter." Like, are you fucking roasting me on my first, like seeing my first mom? Like, how Asian is this? Or just like, "Oh, you're not fat, you so fat, need to be better." Like, all that. There's most stereotypical Asian things to say. It's like, oh, okay, like I guess he looks all right. He seems okay. And like we're having a conversation, like you've been right, well, and she's doing like, "Oh, I'm living, but I'm so sick," and all that, whatever. And she just goes, "I want a DNA test," and I'm like, "Yo, what?"
And now you're listening to Mime Time.
Welcome to Mime Time, a show where we talk about the Asian diaspora experience and struggle so that we can understand ourselves better in order to become the best versions of ourselves. So that you, my dear listener, can perhaps come closer to having full peace, acceptance, and love of every bit of who you are, whether you're mixed race or one race or of several cultures. You don't even have to be Asian, quote unquote. You can reconcile with any culture or society that you're a part of and actually be proud to be who you are as an individual and being part of whatever collective that you may have associated with or chosen to disassociate with. So on the show, we'd like to talk about our feelings, man, and our past and our struggles so that we can be the best Korean American that we can be, or Chinese Canadian, or Chinese French, Japanese Brazilian, whoever you are out there. Whatever struggle you go through with your identity, with your family, with your people, I want to say that I can relate. And on this show with my guests or just by myself, we want to share these nuclear grade philosophical insights on humanity and make the most out of this sweet, sweet life. Oh, yeah. For today's episode, we have part 2 of this awesome conversation I have with my 동생, my little bro, Sang-don Park, aka Park Sang-don. Very talented beatboxer, comedian, hilarious guy. And for this part 2, we're going to talk about him meeting his biological mom for the first time. Yes, that's right. Like I promised you, we're going to get into it hard, talking about his mom and family struggles in general. If you enjoyed this part 2 and you didn't listen to part 1, go check that out too so you get a full context to the story art. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a 5-star review or positive review on whichever platform you're listening to this to, whether it's Apple or Spotify, Castbox, and so on. And consider sharing it with a friend who you think would get a cheeky kick out of it. Oh, baby, let's get it. You know what time it is? It's mime time. I want to ask you more about your family. Do you have a good relationship with your siblings and your father?
Yeah, we're
mother?
cool. And I'll give whoever's listening and like just a general background. Like, yeah, so I was raised by my stepmother at the age of 4 or like 5. So I was at a very young age, and I just thought that she was my biological mother and never really questioned it. And they never wanted to tell me because they wanted to kind of like protect me from like the sad truth because my dad, I was like a one night stand. I was like a total biggest one night stand. Yeah, and my dad got married to my biological mother because he found out that she was pregnant and he wanted to stay and like try and raise me. But like things didn't work out. My biological mother is like just mentally ill. She has clinical depression. She has I think she also has bipolar, and like she has like a Ripley's syndrome. I think that's what it's called, is when you believe that your lies are real. I'm not 100% sure if that's the name for it, but there is like a condition for it. But that's what my father told me. And like, yeah, my dad got divorced at the age of my dad got divorced when I was 5 years old, and met my stepmother shortly afterwards. And they told me that my stepmom wasn't like my biological mom. Like when I applied to Australia to go to be an exchange student, and the only reason they told me is because I needed to send in my birth certificate, and if I got my birth certificate myself, he would have known that I would have seen that some other fucking bitch's name was on my on my birth certificate, and he couldn't have that, so he had to have the talk with me. And that was like 2019 summer, so it was not that long ago.
He sat you down at home, or y'all were having like at a cafe, like where he's like, son, I need to tell you something. What was that like?
Oh, it was so bad. It was best misdirection ever. But I was like, oh, hey, Dad, I'm going to pick up, these documents I need to send in. I'm going to pick up my birth certificate. My dad's like, don't do it. I'll do it myself. Just, can you come home directly after school today? And I was like, all right, dude, calm down. And I thought, oh, he needs like money or something. He can't like really financially help me, which is totally fair. There's nothing wrong with that. And I was getting ready to take a loan or something. And then as when I came home, he was like, come in, son. And he just kind of very bluntly said, this is your stepmother, your biological mother, somebody else. Here's your documents. And I was like, oh. And I was so like dumbfounded and like shocked. I was like, what do you mean? I was so confused and like befuddled, and I didn't really feel anything. I was numb. I think for me, because I'm stupid, it takes a while for me to like digest a lot of things. So I just have to like really think about it. I can't really just process it right away. My brain's just like a shit. It just has like shitty connection or something.
You're not stupid, man. Yeah. Or everyone's stupid. I mean, like if I found something out like that, like I would be dumbfounded as well. I mean, how does, because no one teaches us how to process our emotions or to like in like a kind of like a healthy, intricate enough way. So, and then what did you feel later? Did you feel like sadness or anger or like toward your dad or your mom for like not for hiding the truth for you? Like, how did that unravel after you found out?
There wasn't that much anger. It was mostly sadness. I know my dad loves me and my family loves me, and I was very fortunate enough to still grow up with a mom who loved me. Like it wasn't like Cinderella, as they say. Like I wasn't like, oh, you clean the dishes while I take care of my other real children or anything. It wasn't like that at all. No, I actually got most of the love, so I feel bad for my siblings. But first child benefits. But I felt a lot of sadness. I like all I could think about is still to this day is just like, but I'm your son. Like, how could you just like leave me like that? Because she like basically like left my dad. It wasn't like we need a divorce. It was more like, give me money. I want to start working or whatever. So like, I'm going to leave you and like this kid. I don't want this kid. That's what happened from what I know. There's a lot of other details to it. It's a lot of drama, but that's what happened. So I just felt a lot of sadness. Like, like you don't even want to get to like know me and stuff. So
yeah. So what happened before your 6 months in Australia? Did you meet up with her, or was that after you came back?
Oh yes. I'll tell the story. Yeah, so my dad's like, I think before you go to Australia, you should meet up with your biological mother. And I was like, that doesn't sound like a good idea because you just told me that she's clinically ill. She's a psycho and she's just mentally unstable. And it's like, oh, I think it'll be good. So we decided to meet at a Starbucks cafe for like a little bit. And I was really nervous because I just didn't know like what it was going to be like, like what's she going to say to me when I see her? And like they were contacting via email. So like it was hard to like directly contact her, but we met up at the Starbucks and she was waiting on the second floor. We went up and she immediately sees me and goes, oh, he's not that tall. And then my dad just goes like, oh yeah, it's because he got fat, so he looks shorter. Like, are you fucking roasting me on my first, like seeing my first mom? Like, how Asian is this? They're just like, oh, you're not fat. You so fat. Need to be better. Like, all that. There's most stereotypical Asian things to say. It's like, oh, okay. Like, I guess he looks all right. He seems okay. And like, we're having a conversation. Like, you've been right. Well. And, she's doing the, oh, I'm living, but I'm so sick and all that, whatever. And she just goes, I want a DNA test. And I'm like, yo, what? And I was advised by my father not to talk to her because like she's just not like conversation is not possible. But they're having a conversation and she's like, I want a DNA test. It's been like 25 years. It's been so long. I just need to know, like for sure if you're my son or not. And I'm like, yo, like I am your son. Like these pictures that you're showing me, like that's me when I was a baby. Why do you need to know that? Like, like why do you need proof that I'm your son? I know all Asians look alike, but I really am your son. And, yeah, I really am. And she's like, no, I'm not really sure. Like, can I see your fingers? And I was like, okay. And she's like, yeah, when you were a baby, you had like these twisted pinkies, initially. So, but you don't really have twisted pinkies anymore. So I think like this shows, this kind of shows suspicion. And I'm like, yeah, it's called growing the fuck up. Like when you grow up, your fingers develop. So it's not going to stay curly the whole time like a baby's finger. Like, what do you think is going on? And I kind of like told her like, no, I am your son. And she kept touching my fingers, really weird. And she requested a DNA test, and my dad was like, oh my god. So I went to Australia. Like I didn't have a DNA test before. And when I came back, like we finally managed to get her a DNA test. It wasn't that long ago actually, because she really dragged it out. Like it was like a whole court trial, and she was trying to like sue my dad, saying that he sent in a fake son, to impersonate the real Sang-Don Park. It's not really him, it's somebody else. Maybe he died, maybe they killed him and buried him in Gangwon-do. I'm like, yo, what the fuckity fuck are you saying? And these are real things. You cannot make this up. And so I was like, okay, you wanted this DNA test, so we'll do it. First time, you have to go in and you have to wait, like together and alone, and it's not good because she's asking me questions. As soon as I walk into the room, get my DNA test, it's just her, and it's just me and her. And she's like, "Can I see your ID?" And I'm like, "Yo, you know what I look like? It's me." She's like, "No, show me your ID. I need to be sure." So I show her my ID. And she's like, "Okay, I guess that's fine." And she's recording this conversation. Which I found out later. I had no idea, and we wait, and then we get like the cotton swab thing, and then we go home, and DNA test pops up. I'm 99.99996 connected to her. So I'm related to her, but she just kept denouncing it. And so the court just legally said that though they have biological connections, because she denied it, they may not have parental connection or something. So I'm like, that's ridiculous. She is my mom, but I guess not. And she and I was strongly advised by my father not to talk to her again in these times, as you can clearly see why, right? And so I didn't talk to her, and she would just say some terrible things. I'm going to see your fucking father. He's a terrible person. He's just treating me like a birthing machine. Like, and he refuses to give me access to my own son. How could he do this? And my face scrunches up because these are awful things to say to your own son and to his father. And I'm like this. And she takes that and she says it in court, like, I think he has speech impediment or like some mental disabilities, because whenever I said some stuff, he didn't respond. He just had an awkward face. I'm like, yo, what? You call me retarded? And I'm sorry to say, but that's what she said in an official court statement. My dad says, like, how could you say that about your son? I know he's dumb, but come on. And she said that officially. And I was like, yo, sorry, I'm not this like brilliantly, intelligent, tall specimen of a being, but I am your son, unfortunately. But yeah, that was like the whole case. It's still being updated now because she's causing a lot of drama, but these are just the condensed, abridged versions of it. Sorry, if it seemed like I was rambling.
Not at all, man. Not at all. And I'm so grateful. I mean, thanks for sharing your story, because I feel like this is just one of those things that, there's a lot of families out there. I think Korean families and even like Korean American families where some like skeletons in the closet or like some secrets that are supposed to be hush hush. But if maybe hearing your story, they might think like, oh, well, maybe my family's not as fucked up, so fucked up after all. After hearing Sang's story, but also be like, oh, like I'm not the only one who has like, maybe someone listening to this is the son of like divorced parents or like an affair or something like that. I mean, my family history is far from neat and orderly as a nuclear family, as far as like my mom and dad's generation and their parents' generation. Like my father was, I don't know if he was born out of wedlock, but his mother was taken from him because my biological grandmother, like her family took her away from my grandfather because they didn't like my grandfather. And supposedly she was like a decent woman. And so maybe my dad and then consequently me, maybe we share some of her like kindly attributes. This is all like a fairy tale because I don't know, most of the people in my family or know their histories, or I wasn't there, right? But this is just from talking to different people, talking with my mom and my brothers, that, my dad did tell me growing up that he grew up without his mom, right? And so, there's lots of different situations, different family dysfunctions out there, and you might think that your problem is alone. Like, have you met another person with a situation quite like yours that has a crazy biological mom? Saying, have you met someone else with a situation quite like yours?
No.
Yeah.
No, not really. Yeah, but to add on, like, still, I'm very blessed. I think you went through like, like immeasurable amounts of pain And this is just like what my story is like, like pretty much like nothing compared to you. It's just a little bit shocking because I was still protected a lot in my environment. And like even though I'm like still processing. I'm still in the process of processing
Sure.
it because yeah, it's not that long ago, and it's still continuing. It's not like, oh hey, like this is your mom, cool, you can see her like like every a few times a month. No, we don't have that. We don't have a good relationship. She's trying to like. She said like I'll disown you, like if you, since you don't think that I like you're my son or whatever. I'm like, I never said anything like that. It's a lot of malevolent energy. So I mean, it's definitely what helps me work out. I just channel all that anger, and I'm just like,
God damn it, Mom! I'm your son. Oh,
yeah. That's exactly what I
why
say.
did you abandon me as I lift this weight?
It's a great motivator, just sheer anger in the gym. But yeah, I have never really like met anyone like with that peculiar situation.
Yeah, but there's so many people out there who like maybe they don't want people to know. Maybe they ran away from like an abusive alcoholic father or mother. There's so many horror stories out there, and if your story is kind of like a horror story, like, well, one, like, I mean, this kind of cliche, but I think things could also always be worse. Things could always
Definitely.
be worse. Like it's much better to like count your blessings, and like also you're not alone. You may think that you're alone, whoever you are listening to this, and you are, because no one else can be you. So you have to face and deal with your emotional baggage and your past like on your own. You have to deal with it on your own. That has to be your decision, and that has to come from within you. And at the same time, you are not alone, because there's a world of people suffering, especially maybe people from similar ethnic or cultural backgrounds or experiences as diaspora or as a third culture kid or whatever, that you can hear all from all these different stories and perspectives, and then see what kind of person you want to be and try to deal with like these problems and these issues like as best as you can as a human being. Do you feel resentment towards your biological mom at times? Like, what's it when you think about her and all the things she said and done up until now? Like, how do you feel about her?
All in all, because I'm a passive Asian that doesn't express emotions. I don't hold anything against anybody. I think there's always two sides to the story. That's what I always try to believe in. My dad just hates my biological mom, and I get it. My biological mom is crazy, and like she doesn't come from a good household. She had a lot of domestic abuse, a lot of that. She practically has like no one else apparently. So I just feel bad, but like I was told not to feel bad because she'll use that to manipulate me and everything. Because she's just a very like a person who takes advantage of others and all. But but still, at the end of the day, I don't know her as a person. Like I want to. I did think like like oftentimes like I just want to sit down with you and like just have a chat. Like what's up? Like what's going on? What happened? Tell me your story. I want to listen. Tell me everything. Because I'm the type of person like I have to dig in. I want to know everything. I don't want like some people, like a lot of like people say like, yeah, if you cheat on me, don't tell me or whatever. Just don't tell me, it's gonna hurt me. Like and all that. But I want to know. I am a very inquisitive person. I think the fact that I immigrated to America and I didn't know English and I had to ask a lot of questions, it kind of shaped me into this like curious and inquisitive person, because I was this annoying kid. I was like, hey, what does like class time mean and all that? I didn't know a lot of things. So I want to know, but at the same time, there's a lot of info. So right now, and like I just don't have the like the time. I really don't have the time and the mental capacity, like to like just like, oh, tell me everything, and like sure, like I'll deal with you, and I'm being advised to just not see her and like not deal with her at all, and just avoid her at all costs and stuff. So yeah, man, I've got to figure it out, I guess. But she's never like, it just made me sad. I think the predicament, the situation itself made me sad, but I really, really try hard to understand, to have a lot of empathy and try to understand people, and no matter what they do, I try not to hold ill feelings towards another person. I think I'm more sad about the situation, and like, cause she's not I don't think she's inherently evil. She's just mentally sick, mentally ill, and needs therapy and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's a sound perspective you have there, and it's great that your father and your adoptive mother, is that the word? Like your mom,
Stepmother. Yeah.
stepmother, yeah, but she's been your mom and she's your mom, and I think it's great that they've done their best to take care of you and that they tell you that they love you and all that stuff, and you're better off than a lot of people who don't grow up with a stepmom or whatever. Is that, yeah, people who have both biological parents, maybe, right? You might have had, they were able to give you a better upbringing than a lot of people who don't have a step parent, but their parents are together or their parents got divorced and so on. So it's good to count your blessings. And I also want to share, like, my relationship with my mom, just to rub it in your face, Sangdong Park, is really fucking awesome. Like my
I
relationship
know.
with my mom is the best. And like I know because I'm like you as well. Like you want to like turn over every stone and like ask all the questions and do so. When my mom was here in Korea, we would literally just spend hours at a time talking about everything, like life and finances and our family history. What was life like in Korea for her growing up, and being my dad's wife and being our mother, like what was the hardest things, like all these different experiences and stories and perspectives. Like we just have those deep conversations, and I'm very fortunate and grateful to be able to do that. But it's hard for me to say this, but like you might have to just accept in some way, like maybe your mother will never be like at a mental emotional state where you two can connect like as adults and like talk in the past and kind of like connect. Like I wish that for you, bro. I really do, because for me, my mom, I saw her as the most evil and manipulative woman ever. Like I hated my mom. Like I got so mad at times in my life. Like I wanted to punch my mom. Like I thought I wanted my mom to die because that would be better for the world. Like I went through all these different phases. Now, like I love my mom and she's like the most precious woman in the world to me. And she's like a hero. Like she was like the villain of my life, like the main villain in my life. But now I see her as like the heroine who gave me birth. And even though she did a lot of fucked up things and made a lot of mistakes, like, running away several times. Like I've been abandoned by my mom too, like multiple times throughout my life. I guess, I was just fortunate that, but in her mind, Jesus was telling her that she needed to come back, because to help keep the family together. But then it would be too hard for her to go. And she has her own perspective and she might not even know it, that maybe my mom has her own Ripley's disease or whatever. I don't want to talk bad about my mom, but I know that she can still
You can
be
tell me everything.
manipulative. And to the audience, like it's still a journey with my mom. Yes, things between my mom and I have never been fucking better. But there's a part of me that reminds us of my mom, be shrewd. Like there's a lot of people that don't change. And yes, this is great what you have now. It's a miracle. But also remember, like mom, like she may not see things certain ways in a straight way. And it might not even be her fault. Right. And so like, cause I see my mom's heart and I believe her to be like a good, beautiful person who loves her family, loves God, loves the world, and is generally wants to help people. And so when I see that intention in her and I know what she's gone through, like I think my mom has also had like bipolar disorder. Like what were the things that you listed about your mom? Like she's crazy, bipolar disorder.
So crazy is not really. That's not really. That's just an adjective.
Not,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was definitely bipolar. She had Ripley's syndrome, from what my dad said.
Ripley syndrome.
Depression. Yeah. Depression. Those are probably about it.
Yeah, so, that sounds like my mom. To be honest, like that really sounds like my mom as well.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking on Asian women or Asian mothers because they have the highest respect for me now. But, I think there's a lot of Asian mothers out there, but just, of course, they're messed up fathers, but, messed up Asian mothers who come from really, really bad backgrounds, and it manifests themselves in all sorts of dysfunction and, abandonment of children or negligence or abuse. And what I would like to just kind of throw out there at the end, like, I mean, my conversation with my mom could be its own podcast, really. But like in my relationship with my mom, my manipulative, backwards immigrant mom, who I hated for most of my life, who now I love and hold very dearly, I just think to myself, whenever I want to judge her or whatever, I'm like, well, I live a great life and I know I'm a good person. Like I know who I am to a degree. And it must be because like I come from her. So if I come from her, then there must be goodness in her as well, or at least the potential for goodness. And I see that. So I see how we both interact and care for people and want to connect with people. And I just think like whenever I want to judge my mom, and I still do, I just remind myself she went through so much shit like I couldn't even begin. And like, there are no excuses for people to like be bad to their children. Like I think good parenting is like the most important thing in the world. I highly advocate like learning psychology and relationships and learning who you are so you can be a good parent. And so you don't, if your dad was abusive or an asshole to you and you think, oh, I'll never be like that father, well, you better be self-aware and like learn yourself so you make sure that you're a better parent, you know?
Yeah.
So with my mom, what I want to share with some people is like everyone's family relationship is different. I'm sure if you're listening, you may have a super fucked up relationship with your mom or dad. But what I've learned is generally as what I've seen through all the different conversations I've had with and experiences with my own family and with other people sharing stories about their families, like, yeah, your parents or someone in your family might be really fucked up. And maybe what they did to you is fucked up. But just think about how fucked up life has been to them to make them into the kind of person that turned out that way. And so instead of holding resentment and like taking things as personally, I think it's more beneficial to like come from a compassion, acceptance, and wanting to understand. And then when you do that, then you don't need to harbor the hate anymore. And this is completely for your own self, not for them, but for yourself as an individual. Just like let it, understanding where they come from and trying to have compassion and love and be the better person. It doesn't mean you need to see them. Maybe it's that's not helpful for either of you, but you will be better on the long term so that by the time we die, we'll be like more compassionate, loving human beings. And we won't have like hold the resentment or the anger, because in the end, that just kills you. That just kills me if I hold on to that.
I definitely agree. I think just hate. Yeah. I think like just, like a lot of hatred, it could just essentially be, like waste of time and energy. That's why I try to hold, like that's what I try to believe as well. So yeah.
Yeah, saying I think you're an awesome adult and a human being. Even
thank you.
And you're talented. You have a awesome hot girlfriend who loves you for who you are, and you've got me. I'm hot and I'm awesome, and I love you for who you are. And you have it seems to me like you have a good family. So I'm really grateful to know you, and I'm really grateful that you're allowed to open yourself up to share this story, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. Before I forget, I know like you like compared to like all the other successful people, like I'm just still like pretty much like a student and everything and amateur at best, but I appreciate you like inviting me to your podcast and everything. I know that's a big deal. So like just want to say thanks again. And it's pretty awesome and really fun to like kind of like share this, tell you the whole thing and like hear your perspective and like share my perspective as well. Really fun.
Yeah, man. And like, it's like, again, if I didn't want you on the show, like, of course I wouldn't have invited you, but it's like what you may have more value to offer to someone who's listening right now than like the millionaire entrepreneur bro or successful businessman or woman, because like what you're talking about is perhaps more personal and relatable to them. And again, just because you are a successful millionaire and businessman, that doesn't mean you're going to be happy. That doesn't mean you don't have some trauma or some bitterness in your heart that's going to manifest in some other way. So for people to maybe hear this and to understand themselves and their life situation, their families better, understand themselves better, if they can listen to our stories and learn and then heal and become better people, then that's priceless, right? And there's plenty of awesome podcasts and content in the world today and literature about like business and how to improve yourself in that way. But I want to mix that the self-actualization stuff and money and whatever, as well as like this deeply personal, psychological, cultural stuff. So you're an essential part, you sharing your things, like that's an essential part of this podcast. So thank you very much, Sangdon Park. And if people want to follow you and check out your shit, like how should they follow you?
Thanks again for that speech that gave me a boner. You can follow me on Instagram on Instagram or on YouTube at The Sang Show. Just TheSangshow. Instagram and YouTube. I have more clips on Instagram than on YouTube, so that's probably where to follow. And I don't have as many like consistent contents up yet, but I have them ready, and they will be uploaded as soon as I quit my shitty kindergarten job. So yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners about who are maybe going through a hard time in life?
I I think, like I'm 27, so I'm a piece of shit. So like I don't have a lot of like amazing, like, let me tell you about advice, like, and all that. But from what I realized, just in the overall outlook on life, for me personally, I choose to do stand-up comedy and beatboxing because I can't really handle an office job. I think if you do an office job, that is something so respectable, in my opinion, because that's how could you do something so miserable and boring for that long, on a daily basis, like, and just like grind, and then that genuinely is, respectable. But if you can, and um if you have things that you want to do, and if you have like a goal, I think even if you fail or not, you have to try it, because I'm still in the middle of doing it, but it just makes me really happy. And like currently I picked up, I am quitting very soon, but for about 2 months I worked 2 jobs, which means some days I would work from 9:30 to 9:30, 9:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. So it's a lot. I teach kindergarten in the morning time. In the afternoon, I'll do telephone English in the mid afternoon time. And I just realized, like, yeah, like I made like, like money, like some money, like quick, but like I immediately just like missed, like, like what I was doing, and all that. And I think it will motivate me to like work harder once, I have more time again. And also, yeah, I think if you don't like something, then you shouldn't do it. That's what I really believe in. Just I don't like, like lifting weights, or I don't like don't do it. Do sports or do whatever. I don't like, counting. Then don't do it. Find other ways to be more productive, and all that. And I think that's something that you can take into your life, and apply it into practical methods.
And just being transparent, like I'm also working like a day job or part-time job. So I talked about this with Danny Cho as well. He said it's really funny. He's like, don't do what I did. Like, either save up a lot of money first, or like, have like be working some day job or whatever, saving money, so that you can make a more gradual transition into what your passion is or whatever. And so like, I love that, you love what you do, and that you put a lot of time into it, and like that you really enjoy it. And I enjoy seeing your sets. And likewise, I am doing my podcast. Like, I'm not quitting my day job or my part-time job just to do this podcast. Of course,
yeah,
I would like to do that, just like you would like to, be entertaining full time with beatboxing and stand-up comedy. And so like I like how you have these parallels as kind of like Korean Americans with identity struggles who want to entertain people, and like we're working our side hustles, so that we want to make it more full time. So I think we're doing it good, man, because we're working responsible jobs, and we're saving money, and we're doing all that we can in our spare time to focus on our passions. I think this makes sense. Don't quit your day job to do like your business or whatever right away. Like save up some money, like make a more gradual transition. I think that's realistic.
Yeah. Is that what Danny Cho said? Or like, well, I'm just curious, because he said, don't do what you said that he said, don't do what I do and what I did. And he just like quit everything to do stand-up comedy full time? Is that what happened, or?
That's basically what he did. When the episode comes out, it'll come out before this. I mean, you can find his story online, and he's got a great story. He had like a 6-figure consultancy job, right? Listeners, you might have listened to the episode. Like, you'll hear his story. So yeah, I mean, and when that comes out, like, I'll send it to you, bro. You can hear his story as well.
Okay. Jesus, that's intense. But yeah, sounds good.
But I mean, it's cool that he did that, because like he showed the world that it can be done, especially for like Korean Americans, that, like, hey, you can try to pursue your dreams. It's cool. And so like, especially in this day and age, like, we have the internet, and there's so many opportunities to make money and make living doing different things that we love, or at least as close as we can. So follow your dreams, kids. Go for your dreams, but responsibly, and like have a plan, and don't be crazy about it. But anyways,
wear a condom,
thank you
unlike
so much
my dad.
Yes,
wear a condom, unlike my dad. Jesus Christ.
Hard. All right. Well, thanks you so much, brother, for being on the show today. Thank you, Mime Timers, for listening. And please tune in until the next episode. Is there something you want to say?
No, just thanks again for having me. I had a lot of fun. Thank you. Thank you again for having me. This is great.
And that's the end of our awesome conversation with Sang. What about you? Do you have a mentally unstable mother or father? Were you adopted or estranged, or had a parent run away and then later got to meet up with them as an adult? If you have any similar experiences or you resonated with this episode at all, please feel free to send me an email at mime@mimetime.com. MAIM, that's my name, mime@mimetime.com, or hit me up on the Instagram at mimetime. Have another great week of life, and I'll talk to you next time. Mime time. Oh.